So we're doing some seam roller surgery. So this one I got from Getson. They had it made by a fab company local to Elkhorn when their big one went down. So this just helped them get through. And then after that, they used it when they had, you know, they'd have 2 guys going on seam rollers instead of 1. But this thing's awesome. I really like it. There's a couple of things I don't like about it that I want to fix. One is this. Sucks. I hate this. We're gonna put on like a lever joystick kind of deal. Even though I've used this thing a lot, holy shit, there's arrows on it. I was just about to say you forget which direction does which, but then there's an arrow on it. But that's not right, that's backwards. Maybe it's from that direction. I don't know. Either way, we're putting a joystick on it so you can kind of easier control. But otherwise, everything here is in great shape. It's a motor and a gear reducer and a rack and pinion, big ass rack and pinion on some linear rails with a big beefy, it's not mild steel, it's a tool steel plate that's been hardened and ground and all that, so that's really sweet. My biggest issue with this roller is the wheel. So you can see how wide that wheel is. That's like 3.5 inches, something like that. 3 inches. It's a 3-inch wheel. And it's fine, but I have found by looking at other manufacturers' seam rollers, other than Getson, it's fine, it's not anything bad. It's not bad to have a wheel like this, but they all, and especially in Europe, they tend to have very narrow wheels. And that I think once I modify this to be narrower, my bells will roll out much cleaner, much quicker. So currently I roll I call it 1.5 rounds. So I'll break the bell, do the hammering until, these have already been rolled, but you get it broken out into like that, and then you roll it. But I don't re-anneal before I roll, I just use the anneal from the hammering. So that's the half I'm talking about. So the metal is not soft going into it. It's not hard, but it's in the middle. And then I'll do a flat anneal while it's flat. That'll be it. So it's 2 rounds through, but only 1 real full round of rolling. But I think when I make the wheel narrower, and we'll see how I'm gonna do that, it's not anything crazy. I think that's gonna make a big difference. I'm also gonna put a nicer radius. This has a little bit of a radius, but I'm not in love with it. So basically, I'm not an engineer. I don't really know how actual things work. I just kind of like have an inkling. Because there's so much surface area here, we're losing a lot of force to the part of the wheel that's not even touching the work. But with a narrower wheel, we're gonna shoot for about 3/4 of an inch or an inch. With a narrower wheel, we're gonna be concentrating that force on a smaller section of the wheel. And we're also gonna give it a nice beveled, I don't know, it's gonna be like a rounded, whatever that's called, not cope, that's, I don't remember, it's something. So we're gonna give it that kind of surface, just so that we don't dig in on the edges of the stake, which I haven't had an issue with because my stakes are rounded, but it doesn't hurt. But you can see, this thing is actually made really well. I'm really impressed looking at this stuff. A lot of fucking bolts to get this thing out. I had to completely disassemble the gantry, but that's okay, not a big deal. But we got that big shaft here. The shaft is in pretty good shape. I'm gonna clean up all these parts a little bit, clean up the frame a little bit, because it's covered in grease before I put it back together. We're gonna go ahead and get that guy in the lathe and start relieving some of that material. So I had thought that this wheel was not hard, but I am now finding out that this wheel is harder than tits, okay? Right away it broke my inserts. I'm out of good inserts, that's why. I grabbed my brace carbide, which does a little bit better, I found on this kind of stuff. And you can see it definitely is burning the tip right off of that little baby. What I'm gonna do, I got probably about 30 thousandths off of it. This wheel is pretty freaking hard. I did not think it was. I put a file over it while it was still assembled, and it filed, but it's pretty hard there. Probably like 50s. High 40s? No, it's gotta be more than high 40s, because 4140 heat treat is easy to machine compared to this. Like you'll see once I start turning again, I was shooting off red hot chips. So this I'm putting in a triangle. What's the CMT? I don't know, it's a triangle shaped tool. I had a CNMG in before, but the CNMG insert I had is garbage, and these I have fresh ones. I need to get some more CNMG inserts for making mandrels, because those are sweet. Of course, I've just fucking dropped the most important part of the insert. Where the did the screw go? Oh, there's a screw. It's attached. Yeah, I dropped the important part. Aha, I see it. This is like a little wedge. I actually don't know why that needs a fucking wedge, but I just put the bad side back in. See me fail at hard turning mystery metal. How's that look, Colin? Oh, that looks good to me. Yeah, that's so much better. It's still not good, but I think we'll be able to make that work. Wow, that just f***ed right off. That insert's toast. It probably died right after the beginning. We're getting to step though. I'm just gonna f***ing power through it, boys. This is gonna be really terrible, but it's gonna be worth it when it's done. Probably. Well, good thing we cut the burr off the edge there definitely on purpose. We didn't just have the tool post start rotating on us. sucks. Like, I can see the insert smoking. That's so awesome. Try to take some whisper cuts. It's not gonna like it. I might also see if I have a different grade of insert. These are definitely not for hard turning. It did it again. It's a little better. Ooh, I just saw it move. I'm an idiot. Tool post wasn't locked. We're getting somewhere. I'm gonna go look for a different grade of insert. Okay, that's literally the only insert I have for that tool. I thought I had a bunch more. We are gonna f***ing send it. So it's a couple days later. This wheel is actually like super hard. I'm guessing it's like Rockwell high 50s, 60s, because it is just eating up everything I throw at it. So a couple days ago, I got some. These are ceramic inserts. So these are for cutting hard steels, and I got 3 of them the other day, and I made it almost all the way through the job, but then they all broke. So what I'm gonna do is kind of finish it up. I'll show you what's going on. Let me grab the wheel. Basically, that's the wheel. And this side is done enough, so I took about a 1/4 inch off. This side's like halfway there. Obviously, I'd like to turn the whole thing down, but that's a lot of material to turn out of there with these very expensive inserts. We are going to just see if I can get the feeds and speeds a little bit better with one of the inserts. And if I can actually get good removal and wear and all that, I'll deck it all off. But worst case scenario, I have another insert, so I got 2 inserts now, and I'll just clean up that other side and it'll be good enough. We have 2 flip around jaws, and yes, I'm doing this in a 3 jaw because 1, my 3 jaw is good, and 2, it doesn't matter. Concentricity is not a thing. We're just relieving. You'll see once this thing starts spinning how good this 3 jaw actually is. Pretty impressive. These jaws are good too. A lot of times the jaws aren't curved. Like these have an inside curve, and they're also, these are hard jaws, so they're gonna bite in. I guess, well, maybe they won't bite in if it's hardened already. I don't know how that works. Guessing not, but they were holding on to it really well. With these ceramic inserts, I've been doing some research on them. Basically, they should last longer than what I was getting out of them. Ceramic inserts do not like interrupted cuts, and we don't have that here. Like if you're cutting over a keyway or something, they do not like that. The reason I went with ceramic is because the other option, or one of the other options are, I mean, there's obviously carbide, which I tried, that did not work. There's another one, Colin, but they were like 5 times the price. Like these inserts were like, I want to say they're like 20 bucks a piece. The other ones I'm thinking of were like 50, and I'm not paying 50 bucks for this. Well, I mean, I would pay 50 bucks for one if I knew the feeds and speeds on this machine to make them actually work. Seeing as I'm shooting blind, I am not paying that. The issue with these is when they break, they obviously, it's a triangle, so that has 3 cutting edges. Should have 3 cutting edges. But when ceramic inserts break, they kind of shatter. So like you have 3 cutting edges if you just if you know your feeds and speeds and wear out the tip, not shatter the whole thing. Yeah, so it's been a little interesting. I wasn't filming just because I didn't really know what I was doing. And the chips that these inserts shoot out, so it's like they're made of silicon carbide, which obviously is more used in grinding or like sanding belts, that kind of thing. When the chips come off of here, they are red hot, or they should be. And before, mine were coming off kind of red hot, but now like what I've seen in some videos, so I think I need to make them a little hotter. Turn in a little like more SFM so that I get some hotter chips. Because I think if these things are cutting, like some of these chips I was getting were just turning blue. If it's just cutting, I think you're wearing out the tip a little too fast. Luckily it's not too heavy. Wow, I'm so close. I'm just gonna tighten it a little bit. You know what we're gonna do. So I have one of my spinning pucks for doing 2-piece bells, and we're just gonna press with the tailstock on this just to mitigate any pulling out of the chucking, any chucking it out of the chuck, if you know what I mean. Okay, that's pretty good. So then we are going to change out our insert. So I'm using a TPG just because that's what I have and what I could find, what McMaster had the right inserts for. I couldn't find a CNMG from them. I couldn't find a CNMG ceramic that fit my holder. TPGs aren't my favorite. I really don't use them actually, like ever. It's just not my preferred shape. For roughing and stuff like this, I'd really like a CNMG. It's just stronger shape, I think. At least in my experience, it's been a stronger shape. So something important that I've found before we put the insert in, and obviously this is usually a thing you want to do, but we want to get that clean because if there's a chip under that insert, it'll crack it. Yeah, I had one crack because I had a little chippy under there. So then let me grab my very expensive insert. I really don't want to f up. Make sure that's seated in there. And then another little thing is you really don't want to wail on this thing. That's basically all you want. It's enough to keep it from going anywhere, but not enough to crack it, because you can definitely do that. Another trick with these is you want to make sure you're right under the center line, I think, is what I read. And actually, I'm seeing that we are. Wow. So that might be some of the reason I was having an issue. That was like an 1/8 inch above center line. Okay, so then we're actually gonna, we got pressure on with the tailstock. So we are going to loosen the chuck and then put more pressure on the tailstock so that we're bottoming out, and then we're gonna crank on it. Just like that. Let me get my goggles. I don't like that. I wanna go feed it a little faster. I'm getting chips right to my face. There goes that corner. Now I'm gonna put it back on that. Not looking too good. Not a big deal. I'll do what I did last time. Back on the normal speed now. I like doing that. It's super close. I'm not that worried about it. Like I said, I'd love to turn both these cheeks off completely, but I just don't think that's gonna happen. It's supposed to spark like that, but I don't know. I don't really get how it's supposed to do it. That looks pretty good. Maybe it's gotta go really slow, like this. I think that'll be okay. Get these gross chips out of here. These things are f***ing razors. So it's not pretty, but that's as much as I'm comfortable doing, because I mean, it would take me days to get through all this at the rate I'm going, and we got enough there to where we're not gonna be pinching anything, so I think that's okay. I don't know, like the only other way I can think about doing it is like cutting a ring, like getting a parting tool or a grooving tool and cutting a ring off that way. I just don't want to do that though, at least not today. Maybe someday I'll do it if this doesn't work. I'm gonna get an angle grinder and I'm gonna kind of bevel these edges a little bit. I think that's a good idea. I'm actually trying to bevel it with the tool. Okay, I'm good with that. We'll get the thing put back together, which is gonna be a pain in the ass, but we'll do it. And then we'll see how this thing rolls. The only thing I'm worried about is it leaving lines on the pattern, but we can talk about that and we can see what happens. Cool. I really like to paint it, but I don't think it's in the cards for this go around, because, oh yeah, so I don't know if anyone else does that, but instead of blow drying horns, you let them bake, and it's awesome. I did not come up with that. I saw the place I used to work at did it. It's really sweet. I need to get another bulb though, it's not quite strong enough. We're gonna go over to the seam roller. You can see the corpse of it standing over there. Basically the whole roller assembly had to come out to get the roller out. It's kind of captive in there. So it's a little annoying, but we got most of it off here, and we'll wipe it down a little bit, get some of the extra grease off of there, and then we will get her back together. At Getson, whoever was maintaining this thing definitely piled on the grease. I mean, it's not a bad thing, but, you know, grease needs to go where grease needs to go, not all over it. So Getson, the guys at Getson didn't make this, they had it made. The story I got was they had their big seam roller, which is a metal planer. It's a Rockford metal planer that was adapted to be a seam roller. And if anyone's looking for a seam roller and can't find one, because obviously they're a little rare, find a metal planer, because it's super easy. This thing could be a metal planer if you really wanted it to. There's some little ones, the only issue with them is they weigh so much. I'm hoping this modification to the wheel makes this thing do what I want, because I just was looking for something maybe to replace this, just because I wasn't exactly happy with how this was rolling all the time. And the metal planers, it's the same kind of machine, but they're a lot more rigid. So I'm looking for a machine that will do butt seams in one pass, and that's hopefully what this is gonna do. Buy a metal planer, they're awesome. The only issue with the ones that I was trying is they're about the same footprint as this machine, which is great, but they weigh like 6,000 pounds. It's kind of crazy. It's a lot of weight. And I have wood floors. I already have a lot of weight on the floors here. Oh, you wanna know a fun fact I learned from my friend Rob? So, in the old factories, to degrease horns before lacquer, they use trichloroethylene. And it's pretty dangerous, to be honest. I mean, I wouldn't worry about using it on like the scale that I make instruments, but if I were the guy who was running the degreasing bath at Conselmer or at Bach back in the day, I don't know if I would stay at that job too long, but you can buy it still in an aerosol can. HDP, something like that, heavy duty degreaser is trichlor in a aerosol can. I tried to buy some, they wouldn't ship it to me because Illinois is on one of the lists of states that banned it. So I couldn't actually get it. They called me after I put the order in online saying they couldn't let me have it, but they have a substitute. I really just need something other than mineral spirits to wipe down horns with. And an aerosol can sounds great, so I can just spray it on and let it drip off, maybe. I am getting a vapor degreaser soon, just for little stuff. You don't want to have to dunk it in the vapor degreaser all the time. But I'm very excited for that. It's going to save a lot of time. My main issue with the horns I send out is I don't think they're clean. And part of that is me having patience issues. I'm not really good at the last finishing steps. But also part of it is you can only get a horn so clean with brushes and mineral spirits or lacquer thinner or whatever you got. So basically how this thing goes is like this. So this is the wheel. You saw it on the lathe. That's the pinion this rides on. The one thing I did notice, the set screw that's supposed to hold the wheel on was not tight. So there's actually some galling on the spindle from where the wheel was rolling but the bearings weren't. You can actually see a couple marks where this thing's been tightened over time. So next time I have this apart, I'm gonna drill a little, not drill a hole, but mark a hole there, you know? Something for this grub to go into. I don't think it's best for this thing to be walking around like this. So that's that. Then we have one of these. And that just is a spacer, I believe. There's one on either side. And then we have this plate. Nice and greasy still in there. You don't really want to get degreaser in that bearing. Little pro tip from someone who's seized bearings before. You won't do it immediately. If water gets in there and sits overnight or a couple days, you'll just be f***ed. And then I have pins somewhere, because this whole thing is pinned together. A lot of bolts to go through and figure out. Okay. Now if I can remember how this thing goes back together. Should look at a picture of the seam roller. If I have one. Yeah, I'm gonna pull up a picture of the seam roller so I can remember how this goes together.